fantasy short stories. The Samophlange by Chris Herron. Nikki had never particularly liked Bilgewater Harbor. Sure, the smell of smoke and caustic fumes reminded her of home, and they even made the explosives with just the right amount of coarse blasting powder, the way Ma used to do. But she was the kind of goblin who got seasick just looking at a boat, and the salty water always made Carl rust up a little bit. She had tried to convince her mechanical squirrel to make the journey inside an oilskin bag to keep out the moisture, but he had insisted on chasing seagulls and harassing the ship's parrot instead. Now he paid the price as he creaked slightly with each step as he clambered up the stairs beside her. As they approached the command center at the zenith of the tiny island town, Nikki could see a small metropolis of smokestacks, traffic signs, and millions of tiny colored lights strung across the buildings sprawled out below them. A fine example of goblin civilization. "Yo, you must be the help Eltrig was sending my way." Captain Kraz shooed away whatever peon he was talking to and ushered Nikki forward. "Nice of you to finally join us." Kraz was the type of goblin whose hair seemed to be attempting to escape from his inflated ego by taking refuge on his jowls instead. He wore a leather jerkin, which may have fit him at one point, and large shoulder guards that were intended to make him more impressive, but only succeeded in making his head look too tiny for his body. Nikki snapped a salute. "Reporting for duty. What's the word on the street?" Carl scampered onto her shoulder and mimicked the gesture. Kraz raised an unimpressed eyebrow. "Look, I ain't getting paid to chat. We need you here for your, shall we say, particular skill set." He nodded meaningfully at the large rifle strapped across her back. "You see, I gave War Chief Hellscream my personal guarantee that I'd have his air fleet ready this week. But our flagship, the Spear of Durotar, still doesn't have its primary engines installed." Kraz turned to the side and gave an ear-splitting whistle, waving a young goblin over to join them. "This is Philippe, one of our lead engineers. She promised me a shiny new engine last week, but apparently she decided to outsource it." If looks could kill, Philippe was making a thorough job of it with Kraz. Her green skin threatened to match her flaming red hair as she waved a wrench threateningly at her captain. "This is your fault! You insisted your engine use an induction Samophlange!" Philippe turned to Nikki, holding her head in exasperation and leaving a grease smear across her cheek in the process. "Those things hadn't even been invented yet! I test Smoot was creating one based on some stolen VentureCo schematics, and to be fair, he did build a working model." Kraz scoffed. "Except now that he's got the Samophlange, he's drunk with power. He's running all over town with it like a goblin possessed." Kraz sidled up to Nikki conspiratorially, placing an arm over her shoulder. "Do me a favor, will ya? Smack Smoot and snag my Samophlange." Carl bit down on Kraz's hand, causing him to jump back with a yelp. Nikki nudged Carl with the side of her head in a silent rebuke. "Don't even worry about it. They don't call me Crashin' Thrashin' Nikki for nothing." It wasn't as hard to find Smoot as Nikki would have guessed. They hadn't been exaggerating about his current mental state, and she found him by accident more than anything. As she stepped out onto Gear Spring Road, a goblin with giant black leather work gloves bowled her over as he ran past, screaming, "Behold, the Samophlange!" Which Nikki could only assume was in reference to the large, metal whirligig that he was swinging above his head. Nikki rolled into a kneeling position, reaching into a pouch at her side, and retrieved a glowing blue crystal shard, which she slid along the ground where it collided with Smoot's scurrying feet. Crack! With a smug grin, Nikki rose, dusted herself off, and casually swaggered toward the mad engineer caught in her frost trap. Giant shards of ice had shot up from the disk on impact, encasing Smoot's legs and arms. She squared herself in front of him and slung the rifle from her shoulder menacingly. "I need that Samophlange, Smoot, and you got what I need." Smoot's eyes rolled wildly in his head as he laughed maniacally.
On the dawn of the first day, the Samophlange beheld what it had wrought, and lo, it was good.
Almost too late, Nikki saw the red metal bomb on the ground at her feet, its painted smiley face grinning up at her. She dove to the side, scooping Carl up in one arm and covering her face with the other. The Big Daddy bomb exploded in a ball of flaming death, taking out a piece of the road, a nearby wall, 2 light poles, a single pink flamingo, and, of course, the ice trap. As Nikki coughed out lungfuls of black powder smoke, Smoot took off in the opposite direction.
I love you, Samophlange!
Nikki nodded at Carl. Go get him! Carl belted down the road, his tiny metal feet tearing up cobblestones as he flew into the air to tackle the crazed tinker. But the madman was ready, tossing a small wooden box behind him. As the box hit the ground, it unfolded into a wooden cutout of a poorly drawn, wide-eyed human swaying back and forth on a large spring. The advanced target dummy worked like a charm, and a very confused Carl tore into it with unbridled ferocity. Smoot cackled, looking over his shoulder with glee.
One Samophlange to rule them all!
He made a rude gesture in her direction and ignited the nitro boost he had hidden in his shoes. Flames erupted from his feet, and the green menace accelerated dangerously, leaving a smoke trail in his wake. Nikki sighed. Engineers always think that they're the only ones with toys. Well, 2 could play at that game. She had a bit of experience with the wrench herself. Reaching back into her pouch, she pulled out a wormhole generator, something she had tinkered up one brewfest in an alcohol-fueled delirium. She set the destination for the end of the street and hit the button. A swirling vortex split open in front of her, and she stepped through, exiting the other end right in front of Smoot. As the engineer's eyes went wide as dinner plates, Nikki stiff-armed him as he rocketed past. The Samophlange dropped to the ground as the clothesline maneuver redirected Smoot's momentum in a more vertical direction. As the poor, mentally broken tinker spiraled skyward on rocket-propelled shoes, Nikki could make out the dwindling words,
"Oh, Samophlange, I have failed you."
As Nikki bent down to retrieve the coveted device, Carl scampered up next to her, a piece of wooden cutout still clamped in his metal jaws. She gave him an affectionate pat and hoisted the Samophlange over her shoulder.
Come on, Carl. We need to get paid. After all, time is money.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that story. I wrote this World of Warcraft fanfiction and published it something like 8 years ago. I'm not exactly sure, I kind of lost the dates. But back in the day, I used to play Warcraft all the time. I don't play it as much anymore. I still log on once in a while to hang out with friends. But this was one of my favorite quests. It always stuck with me. I actually did an entire series of these where it was the most funny quests in Warcraft. I turned all of them into little short stories. But at some point, I don't know, 5 years ago, something like that, YouTube changed some of their terms of service, and this was kind of subject to a very obscure rule that was going to potentially demonetize and completely eradicate my channel. So I took them all down. Since then, they have changed their rules again, so now I can put them back on. But I wanted to re-record it because I recorded these so early on that the quality just wasn't there in my opinion. Anyway, long story short, these might occasionally come out whenever I'm running behind and did not have time to review enough stories. For instance, this last entire year has been just a cavalcade of issues popping up in my life, more so than any other point in my life. It's led to me falling way behind, to which I am super sorry to anyone who sent me a story I haven't reviewed yet, and also to you guys listening, because I keep missing episodes, and I'm really sorry. I'm trying, and hopefully things will settle down. I keep saying that, and it hasn't happened yet, but we'll get there. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and a comment if you're on YouTube. Or if you're listening to the podcast, just be sure to subscribe for more brand new short stories. I'm Chris Herron, and that's it for today's Tall Tale TV.